Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a comprehensive look at wood louvers that we sell and supply to our client base. Wood louvers are installed almost exclusively in wood doors, flush architectural wood doors of a variety of species, and wood louvers are available in a couple of different basic designs and then a couple of variants of each design of what those are. So first of all, let's start with the standard wood louver that a lot of people are familiar with. It's a kit, a wood louver kit, a lot of people think of it. And before we go further, let's talk about species. Just let me tell you this. Alder Beech, Alder/Beech, two species that are quite compatible for use in the manufacturing of louvers, is the primary sort of species of wood that's used. It's a hardwood that it complements, you know, oak, cherry, maple, birch, any wood that's inherently a little bit lighter. It complements very well. Can be painted because it's a fairly smooth surface, and is by far the most common. Other than that, you've got red oak, which I'll show you, and then of course maple is another very common one. Any species of wood can be used to make a louver, but other than alder or beech, those two woods are used interchangeably, or substituted for each other at the mill, sort of direction. Alder or beech, then red oak, then maple. Those are your common ones. And if you need louvers made of a specific species, we would quote that for you. So let's start at the beginning with a kit shown in Alder Beech. This is a typical 12 by 12 kit called a chevron style kit, and that's because of the design of the slats. They're like inverted V's is what they are, and there will be a cross section. There is a cross section of what a chevron looks like below this video, but this is what it looks like. A very typical, common sort of louver, appropriate for use in changing rooms. You cannot see through that, regardless of how you install it. About 35% free airspace if you have to calculate CFM, which is a very common requirement when you're adding louvers. You have to make sure that you're providing adequate ventilation. 35% free airspace. That's your Alder Beech. That's what that looks like. You can see that it's got a bit of a grain structure, but while it's not smooth like maple, it's quite smooth. It would be certainly suitable to paint, although generally, unless the door is painted, you of course would stain this. You can certainly paint it. A kit looks like this in the edge, where you're going to have a section with this molding that the louver core has been basically attached to, and then an inner trim. Okay, and all this material, when it's built as a kit, is all pinned or brad nailed together, or stapled in this case together. So this material is literally stapled together here, so that it's a handy kit. And then of course it's stapled together here for transportation. You would pull those staples out and remove this inner part, and I'll show you that later on when we get into the other type of louver. So that's what your Alder Beech looks like. I happen to have, I'll show you the wood species, those three basic wood species, as light kits that I have. Again, this is just a light kit, but showing it to you in Alder Beech. That's what that looks like. Okay. Now, showing you red oak. That's what that's going to look like. Again, this is just a light kit, but only showing you the species of wood. Then I also have one here of maple, hard rock maple. Okay, very nice quality, sort of excellent wood is the bottom line. Excellent machining on it as well. Door louvers are available for, and you have to decide which size you're doing. 1 3/4 doors, which are your most common doors, and 1 3/8. Those can be bought directly in the website. Unless it's maple. Maple is only available in 1 3/4, as would probably custom species as well. That, you know, custom species would be available typically only 1 3/4 inches. Okay. You have listed before you every common size in even size increments. So you'll have a 12 by 12, a 12 by 14, a 12 by 16, a 24 by 12, 24 by 14, 24 by 16. You get the idea. All the way from 12-inch wide to very wide, and then from, you know, very short, maybe 6-inch, I'm not sure what the exact size is, but to 96-inch or so. So these louvers can be made to suit whatever size you need. It's very often that you'll have a situation where you have a hole in a door already and you need to fill it with a louver, or you've already created the hole. You either have inherited the size or you've made it. The size of the louver itself is very important to know what cutout size that you are going to need. Okay. For the order size, what you're going to be looking at, here we have the example of a 12 by 12 louver, or two example louvers, or the one that I've shown you so far is 12 by 12. Now, that's the order size. So when you order a 12 by 12, that's what you're going to be getting. A 12 by 12 is going to have a visible, a dimension a little less important really, the dimension between here where the trim is and over here where the other side of the trim is. It's going to be about 3/4 inch less. So we put the tape measure into there. You'll see, well, in this it's 1/2 inch basically, okay? So that inside dimension is approximately 1/2 inch less than your order size. So let's say that this is 11.5 by 11.5. That's fine. Now, the real important situation is what's the outside dimension in terms of what kind of hole I'd have to create in the door. So you can see there that a 12 by 12 is going to get you to about 12 7/8. And since this is square, it's going to be the same this way, 12 7/8. So what we're saying is the dimension from here to here is 12 7/8. So it's 7/8 larger. Okay. In terms of a cutout size, you're going to want to be close to that. Pretty close. Maybe 13 by 13, maybe marginally more than that. And that's because you've got 12 7/8. Now, if I hook my tape measure on the outside, you can see that we get to 13 7/16. So that doesn't really leave us with very much, you know, like 3/16 on either side, meaning that the amount of profile here and here is only about 3/16. So you need to be able to get this installed into your door, but so much that the hole's not so large that you can see the hole through the trim. So generally what happens when I've cut louvers is I've made them, you know, I would go 1 inch larger than the order size. And that allows me a nice snug fit all the way around. However, the downside of that, and there's really no way around it, is you've got to square those corners out. If you've taken a router and you've cut the hole in the door, you've got to square out the corners to get that to fit in there. If you were trying to do this without squaring the corners, this is going to probably fall through. So that goes over, you know, the size, and that logic is going to follow through regardless of the size that you order. Keep in mind that your, you know, your order size plus 1 inch is going to be your whole cutout size, is what that's going to be. Now, because this is a kit, what you're seeing here is countersunk holes drilled in the perimeter. And what that's what you got there is you're going to have included like a zinc coated flathead, you know, basically a drywall screw. It's not a drywall screw, but it's very similar to it. You're going to run that right into there. There'd be ever so slight pre-drill in the other side, and you just zip that screw right in, and that's how you'll install these. Those are really that easy. Okay. So you can order any size that you want. in the event that we don't have the actual size that you need, that's also not a problem. What you would do is navigate to the next largest size that we have in the site. And you're going to, there's an upcharge if you go to a fractional size. So if you needed to have 12¼ by 12¼ there's an approximate 30% upcharge for making that custom size. But we can do that in any sort of regard that you might need. Because there is an almost infinite amount of fractional sizes that you could have, you'll have to reach out to us so that we can, create a special item for you if you have a need for a custom fractional size because of that upcharge requirement. Generally, those fractional size louvers and light kits are somewhat uncommon because generally you're dealing with a new installation. You're not inheriting a hole in a door or you have to replace one. And even if you did, you're probably going to be able to luck out and get the actual size that you need. So obviously you've got one side without the holes, and you've got the other side that is. You're obviously going to install this with the V in the down position, so the V's look like this. You don't want it like this at all. That wouldn't be correct. Okay. There are two louver types. There is the chevron louver, which I've just showed you, or the inverted V. Then you have the high flow type of louver, which I have one here, shown to you in maple. So that's a high flow style. Okay. And that high flow style, and there again is a cross section below this video, but you can see as I tip this forward what those louver slats look like. With a high airflow style, you get 46% free airspace. Okay. High flow style are only made for 1 3/4 doors, are not made for anything else. Okay. You can still order them in fractional sizes, but you'd have to reach out to us first. Being a kit, it's still the same sort of installation that you have with the chevron type, with the pre-drilled and countersunk holes, and you're going to get ample screws. So, for this you're going to get 8 screws. They generally send a little bit more, but you'll get as many as you need. Now, moving on to the next finishing off with the high flow, you're going to want to be real careful in terms of how you install this one. If you were installing high flow rate into a fitting room, you're going to want to be cognizant of how you're installing that. You're not going to want to install it so that you can, bend down and look up. You're going to want to install it, such that that's not, going to be an issue. I should say the louver slats need to be pointed down is the bottom line. Now, because visibility can be achieved with a high airflow, it would be very uncommon to use it in a fitting room application. But you're going to see these on doors, that require a significant amount of airflow. You might have a converted space within an office that they have computer servers. Keep in mind, wood louvers, they're not fire rated. You would never install these on a fire rated door because they're not fire rated compliant. I'm going to pause this video for just a moment so that I can prepare with showing you the next type of louver. Okay, so now continuing with the process of showing you louvers, the next type of louver, and it's not really a different type, but it's just a different variant of your standard louver. You can get kits either in a chevron style or in a high airflow style, or you can get the core only in either a chevron style or a high airflow style. So what I've done is I've removed the cores from those louver kits that I showed you previously. This is what the core looks like. Now you might say to yourself, well, why in the world would I need that? Well, or you might not be. Core only is very common and very popular as well, because in instances where you have louvers installed, the architect, designer, owner, whomever may not want that kit. And this is the outside frame of that high airflow. That's what the molding profile looks like. Then here is the inside kit, the side with the screws. And these two just go together. And in between there is where you're going to have your louver core. So someone might order a louver core because they want to use a specific molding or stop to hold the louver core in the door. Very common, very, very common to do something like that, because you could have panels. You might be creating a panel look in the door above, and you want to have the trim, quarter round, whatever, applied molding, raised molding, however you want that to be, to match everything else. So in that instance, you would order the core only. Now this is the chevron style or inverted V, and I'm going to show you the high airflow core only, which is right here. That's your high airflow core only. And you can see how they make that. Just a strap of wood on either side, and the chevron is the same way. It's all stapled in. The individual slats are stapled in. Now I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to pull out a slat from each of them to show you what the profile of the slat looks like. One moment.